from the University of Auckland in New Zealand. I thought this was interesting because how many times have we heard you can only be happy in a relationship? I agree if it's a happy relationship. If you've got two wonderful human beings sharing the best of their nature with each other, where you're growing together, you are supporting one another's best energy, well, then there's just nothing better. But being in a relationship where one person is growing and the other is not, where neither one is growing, then you've got trouble. And then your life is no longer what's important. It's dealing with how people feel about their relationship. And then that drags on forever, and you just both waste your life, which is unfortunate. And I've always suggested to people that if it's broken, take an honest look. If it's not going to be fixed, then let it go. We have this obsession, this deep-seated judgment factor that, well, even if it's broken, if it's not working, if we're not happy and wouldn't be even if it were working, we got to stick with it. Says who? That's your conditioning. And think of how many years people waste in their life where they could be with people that respect them, honor them, where there is no dysfunction, and instead they're stuck in these bad relationships. Here's what it says, quote, people who fear relationship conflicts are just as happy when they're single or in a relationship, according to new research published in Society of Personality and Social Psychology. Quote, it is well documented finding that single people tend to be less happy compared to those in a relationship. But that may not be true for everyone. Single people also can have satisfying lives. And then it goes into how they show that, well, yeah, you can say that single people are unhappy, not being in a relationship if they're not happy people. I mean, there's a point to where we have to use some really critical judgment and get out of the basement of this psychobabble. It works this way. If you're a happy person, you're going to stay happy. If you find another person that's happy with themselves and you have enough in common to share some time together, whatever that is, and for however long period of time, you're going to be very happy about that. But let's just say that you're a person that is insecure because you believe that a part of your life should be with another person. You are conditioned to believe that you have a certain role in life, whether it's to have children or get married or be supportive of someone else in a relationship. Whatever your motivation to want that relationship, you're not happy until you get it. So therefore, your happiness must be coming from the relationship. Okay, now, show me a single human being who can say they're happy, really happy, being in a relationship when they were not happy being alone. I've never met such a person. Maybe you have. Because all they do is use the relationship to disguise, avoid, to alter their perception of themselves. And then they adapt to the relationship, whatever it is, and choose anything in that relationship that can satisfy some of their social conditioning that you should be happy now. You know, you've got your whatever. So I'm glad someone finally did a study showing you can be happy single, you can be happy in a relationship, you can't be happy in a bad relationship. Nobody's happy in a bad relationship. So why don't we just start with the whole idea in our society of what constitutes happiness? Oh, we did that already for the last 40 years. My generation, we did that. And we determined that the me generation, I did it alone. No one else helped me. Everything. Wrong. Everything we do in life, someone else supports us. Our egos, our narcissism may not appreciate the fact that we are a part of society, of a collective, but then we want to do it all and keep it all and be exclusive to us. And we succeeded. We accumulated more, succeeded more, achieved more than any generation in history. And exactly what do we have today to show that we've made it a better world? And especially our kids who tried to emulate us, and look at the mess they are. So maybe there should be a little bit of humility that succeeding isn't the whole purpose. Happiness is. But we mastered the art of being wealthy enough, successful enough, determined enough, pushy enough, in your face enough that we could get ahead because we were sure that would get us happiness. So we mastered the art of buying things, acquiring things, possessing things that were supposed to make us happy. Now, go find me someone, a billionaire, private jets, yachts, all kinds of people hanging over their shoulder. Show me one of those people that's happy. Because you see, in my office at night, generally between 9 and 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, I counsel people. And you want to know how many of the richest, most powerful, famous faces on earth sit across from me? No entourage allowed. No posse, just a person. No makeup, no photo touching, no PR firms. Just a human being, treated with the dignity and respect that they deserve. They're there because they need help. Now, want to know how many of those people are happy? I've never met one, because they put all their energy into the wrong place. So maybe we ought to just start over and ask ourselves, what is happiness? Because I promise you, it's not something you're going to acquire or buy. It has nothing to do with the external world, and that includes relationships. Next up, fiber. Fiber is simple. It's really basic. Show me someone that's on a meat-based diet, and I'll show you someone who more often than not is constipated, unless they're taking laxatives, which makes laxative the number one cause of constipation. We get used to it. Why? Because it's doing, at a chemical level, what our intestines and the motility in intestines, what is called peristalsis, the wave-like rhythmic movement that takes like a snake crawling, your intestines do like a snake movement. It brings that food right through the intestine, wave-like movement. Little tiny follicles are brushing that food through and gets it out. When you have meat-based diet, a low-fiber diet, there's not a whole lot of that getting through the intestine in a good way. So then you take a drug, whether it's a Metamucil-type product, and it works. They work very well. The trouble is, if it's an emergency because you've had surgery, shock, pregnancy, and you need a temporary solution to help cleanse the body for a day or 2 or 3, that's fine. But what happens when every day you have to take something or you don't have a bowel movement? I know a person that has to have an enema in order to have a bowel movement. That is really unhealthy. That means that person's walking around with a whole lot of autotoxemia, which can impact their body and impact their brain. You end up with what is known as brain fatigue because of it. So that means that at some point, stress, which can constrict, by the way, remember, 2 things happen when you're extremely anxious. You have no control over your bowels. In fact, in nature, there's an instinct when an animal is under attack, it will vacate the bowel so it has all of its blood free not to digest any longer, but to run, put it in the muscles, and to fight or flight hormone, cortisol. But when you're depressed, you actually depress your digestive system. Your digestive system slows down, hence constipation. So now if you weren't depressed by anything else, you're going to be depressed by being constipated because of the bloating, gaseous discomfort. And then you take a laxative, then you get used to the laxative, and now the laxative is your number one cause of constipation. It's the number one cause of constipation in the United States, laxative overuse. Never use a laxative for more than a few days. That's it. Now, if you want to clean the intestine and get your digestive going right, you need fiber. Fiber is good. Fiber is easy. And there are different types of fiber. And the different types of fiber include fruit fibers. And those are the real soft fibers like blueberries, raspberries, strawberries, pomegranate, cherries, bananas, oranges, grapefruit, watermelon. Those are all fibrous materials that very gently, especially good for people with any kind of itis, they will gently clean out the intestine. Then you have stronger fibers like bean fibers. And bean fibers kind of are the heavy broom sweeping out. Visualize one of those old push brooms that had the kind of bristle head. It was 2 feet wide, and you pushed it and then hit the ground, pushed it and hit the ground. Well, that's your bean fiber. Then your grain fiber is a softer fiber. And then your nut fibers are much like they're very similar to a bean fiber. Vegetable fibers are very good, too. They create most of the bulk of our movements. So when you put all these fibers together, and you should in a day, you clean out the intestines, the colon, and that's good for you. that lessens the likelihood of inflammation, polyps, colorectal cancer, and it also helps you get rid of the congestion in the intestine that prevents proper nutrients from being absorbed. And finally, there's a piece from Dr. Kelly Brogan. He's a medical doctor, and he wrote a little piece here I want to share with you. It's called Cracking the Cholesterol Myth, How Statins Harm the Body and Mind. I'll quote this verbatim. A new study finds the chemical war against cholesterol using statin drugs was justified through statistical deception and a cover-up of over 300 adverse health effects documented in the biomedical literature from statins. Better safe than sorry, right? This is the logic that defines the grasp that the pharmaceutical company has on our psyche. Perhaps your mother, father, brother, boyfriend have been recommended cholesterol-lowering medication just to help hedge their bets against a possible chest-clutching demise. In fact, recent guidelines have expanded the pool of potential statin medication recipients so that there are very few of us who seem to be walking around with acceptable levels of artery clogging sludge. But how is it that drug companies got a foothold? How have they convinced doctors that their patients need these medications and need them now? They are banking literally on the fact that you haven't brushed up on the statistics in a while. It turns out that a common sleight of hand in the medical literature is the popularization of claims around, quote, relative risk reduction, which can make an effect appear meaningful when the absolute risk reduction reveals its insignificance. In this way, 100 people are treated with statin medications to offer one person benefit. And the change from a 2% to a 1% heart attack rate is billed a 50% reduction rather than a 1% improvement, which is actually what it is. And perhaps this would still qualify as better safe than sorry if these medications weren't some of the most toxic chemicals willfully ingested, with at least 300 adverse health effects evident in the published literature so far, with at least 28 distinct modes of toxicity, including muscle damage, myotoxicity, 80 separate studies on how statins damage your muscles, nerve damage, neurotoxicity, 54 clinical studies, liver damage, hepatotoxicity, 32 studies, endocrine disruption, 13 studies, cancer promoting, 9 studies, diabetes promoting, 8 studies, cardiovascular damaging your heart, 15 studies, and birth defects, what are called teratogenic, 11 studies. Now, beyond the known fact that statin drugs deplete the body of two essential nutrients, coenzyme Q10 and selenium, they're also highly myotoxic and neurotoxic because the heart is one of the most nerve-saturated muscles in the human body. These two modes of toxicity combined represent a perfect storm of cardiotoxicity, a highly ironic fact considering statin drugs are promoted as having life-saving cardioprotective properties. Now, a powerful expert review by Dr. Diamond and Ravnosky decimates any plausible indication of these cholesterol-lowering drugs giving full consideration to the above-mentioned side effects. They plainly state, quote, overall, our goal in this review is to explain how the war on cholesterol has been fought by advocates that have used statistical deception to create the appearance that statins are wonder drugs when the reality is their trivial benefit is more than offset by their adverse effects, end quote. So it's tempting to look the number one killer in America in the eye and say, who did this? Who's responsible? It is also consistent with American perceptions of health and wellness to demonize a natural and vital part of our physiology rather than look at lifestyle factors, including government subsidies of inflammatory food products. Not only is low cholesterol a problem, but it puts an individual at risk for viral infection, cancer, and mental illness because of the vital role that lipids play in cell membrane integrity and hormone production and immunity. A broadly toxic xenobiotic chemical statin medications have been demonstrated to be of slight benefit by statistical manipulation. And then it goes into all the different studies and showing how it causes cancer, And the statin drugs causing cancer and all the other conditions, the central nervous system dysfunction. So imagine that you have Parkinson's, dementia, Alzheimer's, multiple sclerosis, and then you're taking a statin drug on top of that. That's only going to make it all worse because it's a neurotoxin. And what if you're taking a statin drug and you're depressed? Neurotoxin, so it's going to damage you. So read up on the literature. This is posted on my both pages, the ProgressiveRadioNetwork.com and my Facebook today. I'm Gary Null. That's our comments on health and nutrition.